Good morning and welcome to Event Horizons. I'm your anchor, Dr. Robin Falkov, and it is a pleasure to be with you today. Oh my gosh, the weather here is just beautiful. We have a crazed country still carrying on and still trying to clean up the dregs of their insanity. What can I say when the whole world thinks of the United States as the laughing stock with our political machinations that are just dumber than dumb. But you are here, and we are bringing you what you desperately need to know on the news. And we take our commitment to you very seriously because that's what it's all about, guys. We are facing times where just the access to information itself is so challenging. And I know so many of you with the across-the-board insults and disregard and, most of all, disrespect for the intelligence of the people of this country and people around the world have reached a point where everyone is mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. And people are wondering, what do I do? How do I make a difference? And we've got information for you. We've got ways that you can be effective, that you can make a difference. And it becomes very simple, my friends. It becomes reaching out to those people right where you live, right where you work, right in your neighborhood. When you're out shopping, when you're in line at the post office, wherever it may be, please, guys, unglue your eyes from that cell phone that you're clutching so tightly in your hand. Raise your head up. Look in the eyes of the people next to you, behind you, in front of you. Start talking. Start talking. Reach out and make a difference, and you will be astonished. And please, I want to hear what happens for you, what your results are. You're welcome to write to me. The easiest way is go to healthfreedomrights.com and just find the Contact Us page. Send me your thoughts. Send me what's going on in your mind, what you care about, what you want to make a difference with, and what you're doing about it. Because I want you to share that with me. I'll be happy to share it with the audience. And I want to know, I want this feedback that people around the country and around the world are connecting with each other. And for those of you who are mad as hell, well, here's a phone number where you can tell them just why and just how mad you really are. And that number is 866-220-0044, 866-220-0044. Now, for those of you tuning in for the first time this morning, I'm your anchor, Dr. Robin Falkov, and my website is healthfreedomrights.com. Now, my focus is protecting our health freedom rights, but it's also protecting all of our rights, especially our right to have access to the necessary information so that we can make informed choices. And that is what is critically important, and that is what we strive to provide for you here at Event Horizons and on our network, Revolution Radio, at freedomslips.com. So guys, understand, you are part of an extended family. You are listening to my voice. You are listening to the voice of almost 70 other hosts that are on our network, and we all have messages for you. Some that will resonate and some that you'll think, nah, not quite my thing. But listen, give things a chance, broaden your horizons, and share. Share what you have heard. That's what I always ask my audiences. Go out and make it better. You can do that by sharing what you've heard. So coming up right now, we have our team member, Melanie Britchen, and she's got news of a special event that will be starting in Brussels, in Belgium, and Melanie also has some of her team members for her work, or I'm not sure if they're on her board, but Melanie will fill us in. Good afternoon to you, Melanie. How are you?
Good afternoon, Robin. I'm fine. We're preparing for our event. So,
Wonderful. Can you give us the information when it is?
yes, it's going to be, tomorrow and on Sunday, most of the whole day. And just to remind our listeners before I'm going to give to my colleague Diane O'Donnell, who's actually UK representative and is going to do the scanning, is that we're scanning people that believe that they've been implanted non-consensually with radio frequency devices for radio frequency emissions. We have had a lot of success, if you may call it like this, Robin, with this scanning event. Actually, we have been overwhelmed with the request. So at one point we had to limit it because there were so many people, requesting a scan.
Okay. So what other options are there for those who cannot be scanned this weekend?
Well, we will do, we do these events regularly, so we will certainly do new RS scans in different countries. Diane in a moment is going to say something about that. We do them regularly. They are always published on our website. And it is not easy for us to say no to people, but we had to because we're just, overwhelmed, which gives us an indication that actually the non-consensual implantation with these devices, these chips basically can be very widespread in the population. And that is, of course, very concerning. And we find that every time there are, we have more people requesting these scans, so it is very concerning.
It certainly is, and I think you are doing an amazing service for people because, as we've discussed way too many times, it is just a very sad disregard of the experiences that so many are having, and you and your colleagues are giving that confirmation so that people can show this to their doctors and maybe we can get some changes made. So I'd love to meet your colleague if that's what you would like to proceed with right now.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to give it over now to my colleague Diane O'Donnell, who came here from the UK and who's actually going to do the scan. So,
hello. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Diane.
Hello.
And so please tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing.
Well, what I'll do is I'll bring people in and I'll just give them each a scan, which basically I just do a little general sweep to see if I pick anything up, any unusual little bleeps with my scanner, and then I go back over it and double check it, and if we get a consistent reading, a positive reading, then I would make a note of that. Then I go back and I make a report. I review my videos and I give them a report eventually. So to confirm whether or not we have found any positive radio frequency emissions. So
and how long is that process, Diane?
I generally would give it a half an hour, more or less. It doesn't take a lot of time. Sometimes it's a bit more, sometimes it's a bit less. It sort of depends on the person and the environment and just what happens at the moment, really. So you just don't know until you get the person in front of you and you start to scan.
Yeah, certainly. It just, it gives a little bit more perspective because there are only so many hours in the day. So it does limit the amount of people that you're able to work with. So can you share with us how you got involved in the work that you're doing?
Well, I'm a victim myself, as far as I know, from about 1998. Never understood what it was, but I was quite sure from my experience at the time. I was actually living in New York City at the time. I'm British origin, but I lived in America also for about 25 years. I've moved around a lot. And I was pretty sure that the people targeting me had also targeted my neighbor and another friend of mine, and it was all at the same address. And I always knew that there was something else, and my gut was telling me there's something else going on here, and this is not people just suddenly going crazy. So eventually I had been driven out of my job, and basically my world fell apart, and all these strange things happened to me. I just decided that I had to make a plan to sort of observe back what was going on, and I kept a detailed diary, and eventually was chased out of New York and went down to Florida, moved around a lot, and come back to the UK about 6.5 years ago, and never knew really much about the whole targeted individual thing online, because I'm not big about computers really. And finally I found ISAC online, and I thought, well, these people actually sound like they make some sense, and that they're trying to do something logical about it and do some real investigation, as opposed to a lot of stuff that comes across as conspiracy theories. So that prompted me to get a hold of Lars Strudgar in Denmark and go up there myself for a scan. And that sort of started me off getting involved with the group. So that was only about a year ago. So,
you're reading my mind. Gosh,
yeah.
It sounds like you and your colleagues have done an amazing amount of work in such a short time.
Well, I mean, the ISAC has been about 3 years since Jeffy and Lars first started. Yeah, so I mean, they're the ones who decided to actually do something about it. So I mean, I have no credit whatsoever as far as that goes. But I'm just happy that I met them and decided that, you know, I wanted to commit myself to also help in some way, because I just thought, well, this has been going on for so long, and the way you feel as a targeted individual is that this is going to kill me at some point anyway, so you might as well fight before you die, basically.
Okay.
make an effort. And also because it's a very, very lonely experience. If you tell anyone that you're having a skull or anything like that, you're immediately assumed to be schizophrenic, which is definitely not something that I am. I still try to always keep a job and maintain a life to just to disrupt that whole concept that we're all just a bunch of nutcases, which is a complete lie.
Yes, I know how important that is with so many people that I have met at conferences who have Morgellons, or who have been shipped and have been the focus of these bizarre attacks, and people don't take them seriously. So I just find what you're doing is an incredible service to give people back their credibility. Gosh.
Yes, I mean, because we're all victims, we understand that how it feels. And I was isolated for years, and but I always thought to myself, I know that they're doing this to a lot of people. My feeling was that they were all, the people who do this were training others, and that eventually it would reach a tipping point where you can't ignore it because there's too many victims. And I think we will get to that point in the future. So.
Well, you made an interesting comment, Diane, that I'd like to ask you about. You were giving us a little bit of background about yourself, and you said that you were in a building where you were living at the time, and there were others that seemed to be singled out as well.
Yeah.
So could you expand on that?
Well, I don't want to give details.
Okay, never mind.
No, as far as names and places, but I.
No, I don't mean that. I mean the idea that others in one location would be targeted. Why that location?
I couldn't tell you because I'm not the criminal doing it, but my assumption at the time was that it had something to do with wanting the apartments for themselves, these other people who were doing it. So they drive people. I found out that this group of people seemed to have keys to other people's apartments, and would go in there when they were gone and would start setting up things as they did to me, make me seem crazy, because one of the neighbors who then died, she kept saying to me, like, won't you help me, won't you help me? And I just also thought at the time, was she just a bit off her head? It was only years later when it physically happened to me as well that I realized that, well, exactly what she'd been talking about was the same experience that I had. They come in, they do things in your apartment, they have the keys, somebody's been at your computer, but it certainly wasn't you, and the history had just been deleted. These kinds of things happening, and then you realize, well, somebody else has access. And eventually that woman died of a certain heart attack.
Gosh.
And so I do believe that there is some kind of technology involved, because I know I did my own sort of what would you call it, sort of investigating by elimination. Like I would unplug my computer, my radios, my television, put them in the closet for months on end to see, how that affected things, because they would like to make you out to be somebody who believes everything on the television and is talking to the television, etc., etc. I think it has to do with using common gossip methods, sort of bullying. Oh, they just tell people you're crazy, and then nobody will believe. Yes, they ruin your reputation. They discredit you.
I can hear that. Yes, I'm curious. I'm from New York City. That's where I grew up. And
okay.
Are you talking about the rent control buildings? Is that where they were trying to get people out?
Rent stabilized.
Yeah.
And the competition for those, is quite stiff. Other people don't want them. So.
Oh, well, you just added a new dimension, Diane. That's another layer of craziness and extremes that people will go to.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do also believe it has something to do with employment, possibly, too. I don't know. From all the people that I have met so far that I've scanned and the whole range of horrifying stories people have told me, some of which are so much worse than anything I've experienced, a lot of people do get targeted at their jobs as well and forced out. And then I always ask them, do you know who replaced you? Because sometimes I'm a bit suspicious about that, and I don't know if it's a sort of an organized group that's
organized crime.
Maybe it's a form of organized crime, but very hard to prove. So.
Yeah. Those.
Because we want to prove it. We want to give people objective evidence because we want to avoid that these victims, which are victims of a terrible crime, actually are, as we discussed so often, rather than sent to a psychiatrist and immediately medicated. So
yes,
that's what we're doing this weekend.
I mean, this is a whole directed, identifiable reason that we're looking at that Diane's describing. I haven't heard anything like this. I've heard of people being targeted and made to think they're crazy for the positions they take politically or the work they do. But it's definitely, I guess you have to be a New Yorker to understand the lengths people would go to for an apartment like that.
Yeah, true. But it's a global phenomenon. No?
I have incidentally heard similar stories from people in London, people in council houses, which is a similar thing. And also people in private property, which is in a prime location, and some developer really wants it. So, I mean, we are only theorizing at this point because we can't prove it, but it does seem to be something that comes up. So that's where it's interesting to have meetings and to be able to discuss face-to-face with other victims what their experiences are so that we can see if there are common points or not, and because we're all over the place. I mean, from my experience, there's no one religion, no one particular group. It's all kinds of people, all walks of life, all ages. So
even children.
Yeah,
I believe actually this time Diane has one request to scan a child.
Well, we should see if that happens. But yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I think you've certainly expanded the parameters as to where and how these attacks can hit. This is really great, Melanie. Don't you think that we can have other questions to identify why somebody might be singled out? And I would not have thought about asking, where do you live, and is it a place that's desirable that someone else might be wanting?
Definitely something to do with that. I agree with Diane. What we found is that it's often, the majority are women that tend to be isolated or widowed or divorced, as I said in previous shows. And what I say to this is that I regularly find, I seem to be the only one that has this in my letterbox, constantly commercials, like little, notes for sell your house or because I live in a quite prime location in the European quarters of Brussels. I used to work for the European Union. And I bought my house, and I regularly have these notes, almost every day saying, you can fetch so much for your house if you sell it now, or little stickers on my car, of some garages or whatever that buy cars. So, and I seem to be the only one in the street where stickers are put on my car only. And vandalized a couple of times as well. So, it is definitely a very targeted, directed attack on people that are, first, in my opinion, profiled and then put in these criminal programs. And then, basically what they're hoping for is that you will either commit some violent act or basically kill yourself or end up in a psychiatric institution.
Oh, quite an ugly scenario. I must say here in New Mexico, this is the land of the laziest realtors I have ever seen. I never encountered realtors that didn't want to work on Saturday and Sunday. That just is like, where do you think people have time? But they are constantly...
In New York.
Excuse me?
I've obviously never worked in New York. So.
Oh, I know, and I even worked in real estate in New York, so, winding up here years later was kind of, what? But we have those ads that get put in everybody's mailboxes about sell your property and all of that. But I have not heard, well, I guess maybe it's, we don't really have prime locations in this little area, and maybe there are. I'm just not aware of that. But it's interesting for me because this is the first time I'm hearing the information that you're sharing, Diane, and it just gives more data points that have to be explored. And gosh, this is just such an ugly scenario. So, is it just the two of you this morning, or is there another member that's participating in the event this weekend that's there?
In fact, we have also our colleague Carmen Lupan with us, who's our very talented webmaster, and also she has overseen most of our video production. And she has a few words to say as well. So I give it over to Carmen now.
Oh, wonderful. Good to meet you, Carmen. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you. Yes, the discussion here has been about certain things, and I believe that a huge part of this can also be experimentation. And, of course, they use different methods of exclusion and destroying all aspects of a person's life. And some families, there are whole families that are actually targeted. And it might have to do with they try to see, it must have to do with heritage, with genetics or something like that. If you destroy a whole family and you implant a whole family, and mother, father, child, and so on. And otherwise, I agree with most of what has been said here. And I usually try to film at events. Sometimes it goes better, sometimes worse, because not everyone wants to go on film and so on. But it has been a great experience to be a part of ISAC, to build the website and to follow our progress, and it really shows that we are doing some progress, making some progress, and every time we have meetings, the people that show up there, they're really pleased and enjoy being at the meetings, and we manage to position ourselves as a very respectable organization, and that inspires trust, and we are pleased, actually. We don't know how long this is going to take, maybe years. Every kind of social movement, justice movement in history has taken several years, so it can happen something in 2-3 years or maybe in 10, because this technology is creating new types of crimes that are quite invisible, and there is a reluctance to get from the medical community, from politicians, from the justice system, from the police to actually recognize it and really speak about all its capabilities. there are some reports here and there, that speak about it, but now the neuroethics and this implant technology ethics is more and more discussed. It is progressing since 2005. Yeah, it's rapidly. So
it's very, very interesting. You brought up something, Carmen, that I've heard before from people that I've spoken with about Morgellons, that there does seem to be a certain profile genetically that are targeted more often than others, and it's just a point we haven't covered, and I plan to expand on that more with Melanie and with some others, because people need to know what these things that can be identified are. And gosh, this gives a whole new perspective for where you live, and having problems with your neighbors. So I appreciate so much what you're listening to Event Horizons, and I'm Dr. Robin Falca. With me is team member Melanie Burchin and her colleagues Diane and Carmen. They have an event going on this weekend, starting tomorrow in Brussels, and it is just amazing that so many people will have the information to show those who doubt them that there truly is a problem, and it's measurable and it's confirmable. So it's an incredible service that you and your colleagues are providing, Melanie. So can you tell us a little bit more about where the event is and how people get in touch?
Yes, so the event is going to be in an apartment we rented in the center of Brussels. The people that have registered, we of course gave them the address. So, but as I said, we were having over 30 people now, so we unfortunately had to limit it because we have limited time. But there will be other events, of course. If people are interested to get a scan with us, if you are in the U.S., you have the email us@ICAACT, so ICAACT.org, so you can write to the U.S. address. If you are in Europe, you can write to EU@ICAACT.org. And if you happen to be in the UK specifically, and Diane is the UK representative, you write to UK@ICAACT.org if you're interested in getting a scan. Otherwise, our events are always published on the ICAACT website, so it's the International Center Against Abuse of Covered Technologies, ICAACT.org. You can have a look there. We always publish the events there. And what is going to happen at this event is that in the lunch break from 1 to 2, and I'll send, Carmen is probably going to, film this because she's doing the event documentary always. I will send you the link to it. We are having the, we do not totally, as you suggested last time, live stream it, but we are having the conference, with participants, with the ICAACT president, Jesse Beltran, and we're doing this so participants can ask questions about ICAACT, about our work, and also so that we have an exchange there. So that will be on the documentary, and I will that Carmen will film, and I will send the link to you. Otherwise, well, we hope it's going to be a successful event. I think it will be, and there will be definitely others, because when we started this up, we never thought that it would get so big and that the demand was so high. So yeah, there will be definitely other events because so many people are requesting the service.
Well, that is wonderful. That the service that you and your colleagues are providing, as I said, is something that is desperately needed, and you're making a difference in so many lives. So we'll look forward to hearing the report about your event when you join us again next week. I wish you all much success. I know you will have that because the demand is so great. I hope you guys get to have some rest this weekend.
Yes, well, not a lot. We have a Monday to chill out, and the most important thing is that we're providing this service and that we get to people this evidence that is so desperately needed.
Yes, yes, and oh my gosh! So it's exciting, and thank you for providing all the contact information. And my thanks to Diane and Carmen for sharing their experiences, because you're broadening those parameters for people who have difficulty understanding things like this to start with, but to realize how many different ways and for different agendas that people can be targeted. So it's that that was the last thing I was expecting to hear, but it makes sense about apartments in New York City or in London, and it's just an unfortunate commentary on the lengths that people will go to obtain their ends. So I wish you all a very, very successful weekend, and I'll look forward to catching up with you again, Melanie, on next Friday. And, anytime, Melanie, when you have breaking news, please let us know. You're always welcome to come on and inform the audience of what's going on.
Okay, I will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for having us on.
My pleasure, ladies. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Whew, that was interesting information. I'm wondering if I'm going to be hearing from other New Yorkers now, because this is just, somebody needs to make a movie about this to drive the message home about all the different ways that these covert technologies are used to attack and destabilize people around the world. It is just insanity on steroids. Well, you guys know what happens. I just get really upset by these things. And I'm not the one suffering with these situations as these three ladies are, but to hear of these abuses that others have to deal with so unfairly. Oh my gosh. It just makes me mad as hell. And I want to make sure all of you know, so that we don't allow these things to continue unchecked, and we start to pull them in and clear them up and get rid of them, because there's no place for this kind of craziness. Now, on this subject of covert technologies, we have to wonder about the recent events. I'm looking for this headline for you guys, with a stenographer who was working in Congress, who just really got incensed, overloaded about the voices that she was hearing. And I'm looking for the article to share with all of you so that you can hear this, because it just is something that was so bizarre, and you have to wonder, how did this come about? How was this able to take place? And of course, my friends, what can I say to you? As always, I'm searching, so bear with me. I just have to type in the website again. At least I have that, because the pages go on and on. There's so much information that I hope to share and get to with all of you. But it just, there are just so many hours available. We've got 2 hours, and the stories fly away. But the essence of the story, from what I recall, was that we had a stenographer in court who shared later that she had been hearing voices all week and was compelled to stand up and talk about the fact that that the country is run by the Masons, that there is a grand plan, it's a conspiracy, a lot of things that many of you have heard before. I'm just trying to find her exact information here, and it's hiding from me. What can I say to you all? It must be hiding, because it was right there before, and now it is not. So I'm just going through these links again to see, because I'm wondering if there's an update about it and what finally happened, because all too often, excuse me, as Melanie and her colleagues have shared, people are dismissed as crazy. You know, they find that the best way to eliminate the information that those people are giving. And that label of craziness or ridicule or anything to demean the messenger is quite a common method that is employed against people who are trying to get the information out, trying to alert others as to what is happening to them, and they are marginalized. That's what these societies around the world do, and especially with women. And I'm not some rampant women rights activist. I don't see that we have that many issues, and then I turn around and see things like the proportions of people, of the population who are being targeted, and they are mainly women, and the way women are treated by many healthcare practitioners. So it's, you know, it's like you want to be balanced about this, and yet the data, the numbers that are out there show that, yes, there is unfairness, and it is about how women are handled. And our team member, psychiatrist, Dr. Hyla Cass, made some interesting comments about that, as far as saying that women are more sensitive and more aware and will react more easily in many different situations. So that can be why doctors look at them differently, because of that emotional sensitivity that's obviously needed to raise children properly. And to be that backbone and structure for families. So we are looking at these patterns, and so many women, when I say marginalized, they are given these horrific psychoactive SSRI drugs, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, that have horrific side effects, that have dangers that can be presented just within the first few days of using these medications. Excuse me, guys. And as well as that, it's kind of a mindset, well, we just have to keep her quiet and manageable. You know, that becomes the buzzword with women that doctors feel are imagining things. They're hysterical. They're overly sensitive, and they manage them on these drugs that can disconnect you from your emotions, from your brain analyses, and have these horrific breakdowns take place that we have seen in society, where people go out on sniper attacks, shooting in offices and schools. I mean, horrific occurrences, but there's a common denominator, and that is the use of this weaponry that Melanie and Diane and Carmen were talking about, weaponry that can make someone think they are crazy. We had confirmation of this with the recent shooting in Washington, D.C. at the Navy Yard, where the Aaron, who was the target, had to carve into his rifle stock ELF weapon, okay? He reported hearing voices. He changed hotels 3 times to get away from the voices. And obviously he did not succeed, and there was just a living hell that followed. But these events are all too common, and we have these 2 factors that are shared. So I do have the story for you, and this is an update as of yesterday, so I wanted to get the most current information. And let me share this link with producer Jerry, if you all will bear with me a moment. And gosh, I just have to clear my throat, so I apologize for doing that on air, but if I mute, then I can't talk to you guys, so it becomes rather challenging. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm just updating this, and producer Jerry, I hope you got that link. And here we go, guys. got to make sure everybody else can know what we are talking about, because I appreciate your patience and bearing with me for these little momentary delays. But my friends, it is so important. It is just a necessity that more and more people are able to hear and understand these things, because there are too many that have been told they are crazy. And they are not. They are not. And Melanie and her colleagues will be doing testing where people can finally show that evidence that they are not crazy. So once again, let me open this link the easy way, because I'm just trying to be all over the place. And let me get to this story. This was posted on IntelliHub, which is a civilian intelligence agency, and it was written by Andrew Pontbrain, October 17th. And this is out of Washington, D.C. And as the votes were counted on the House floor, a woman acting as a stenographer entered the rostrum and had a few words for the country. "He will not be mocked," the woman yelled. "He will not be mocked. The greatest deception here is this is not one nation under God. It never was." The woman was later identified as Diane Reedy, a longtime employee out of the House. Reedy had a statement she felt she had to let out that is being called a bizarre outburst. She was subsequently dragged out of the House floor, and after being interviewed by police, was taken to a hospital for mental evaluation. So what did Diane Reedy say to prompt such a level of scrutiny and force to be evaluated? Let me just make sure I'm not missing a message. Okay, and I will get back to these things. Excuse me. Yes, why was she forced to be evaluated with all of this? He will not be mocked. He will not be mocked. The greatest deception here is that no, this is not one nation under God. Never was. Had it been, it would not have been. The Constitution would not have been written by Freemasons. They go against God. You cannot serve two masters. And she repeats this, "Praise be to God, Lord Jesus Christ." That's the end of the quote from what she was saying here. And what the commentary continues with is, that's right, in America, especially in the wolves' den, speaking of God or Jesus Christ is a high offense, which could quickly leave you drugged up, tied up, and driven in an ambulance to the local nut house. Guys, let me step in here, okay? Because I find that so many Americans have blinders on, blinders that are really tilted inward, and their field of vision is so narrow, so small. They forget that this is a great big planet made up by conscious beings that have all choices, all options, all ways of life open to them that are different from what yours or mine may be, and this must be respected. This mindset that there's only one way, only one religion, only one party, only one soccer team, only one skin color, only one anything must go. These are methods of divide and conquer that must be eliminated, because once we are all united, which we truly are, and yet are, oh my gosh, beaten down on so many levels so that we doubt ourselves and doubt the connections that we all share with each other. But once we are consciously aware of this connection that is shared by all living beings, they can't turn us against each other. How can you support war? How can anyone that understands go and fight against their fellow man? It is just insanity. So let me get back to this, and continuing with the article, the writer reports that speaking of a Freemasonic conspiracy, that's even worse. However, the average person who witnessed that will take this as a religious nut who is another right-wing fanatic warning of conspiracy. But what if what she said is true? The Founding Fathers were steeped in the mysteries and were actually not Christian or Catholic. Most Founding Fathers were actually deists. If you go to the Capitol Rotunda, looking up at the dome will prove this to you, as George Washington is portrayed in the Apotheosis of George Washington. Were the Founding Fathers Freemason? Yes, the answer to this is quite simple, and no. Of the signers of the Constitution, 33% were known Freemasons. This includes George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, James McHenry, Daniel Carroll, among others. As far as the Declaration of Independence goes, only 9 were known card-carrying Freemasons. Of these, of course, you had Ben Franklin, John Hancock, Robert Paine, while some speculate Thomas Jefferson was a Freemason, and this is hard to track. Now, it's obvious that she is somewhat correct in what she's saying and is justified by even a quick look at Washington, D.C. In fact, the Washington Monument was laid in a Masonic ceremony while members wore garbs, hashes, and other Masonic apparel. The Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite Freemasons is also located in Washington, D.C. The Supreme Council of Scottish Rite Freemasonry is the highest level of Freemasons. Buried inside the walls of the Grand Halls is Albert Pike, a Confederate general, and was also a part in the founding of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, we have many presidents that were Freemasons, because not everyone has been. Many were, and many hold high offices within the United States government. Also, many seem to be part of all sorts of fraternal orders and societies. This is not a conspiracy. An example of how these secret societies somehow move their members into positions of power was shown during the 2004 election, where George W. Bush and John Kerry ran against each other. Not only were both members of Skull and Bones, a fraternal order located at Yale University, but they are actually cousins. How about that, guys? Actually cousins. I want to digress here for a moment and share with you some more information because I remember being, what can I say? Shocked? Okay, yeah, shocked. That's a strong word, but that was my reaction when I watched the Tim Russert interview, and he was a wonderful journalist who's dearly missed, and it's quite an ode to him that his son has picked up and taken over where Tim has left off as a journalist. But I watched the interviews that he had with George Bush and with John Kerry. And what blew my mind, and I had to wonder, come on, Tim, why aren't you asking the question? Because he's so readily accepted from both of them when asked about their membership with with the Skull and Bones organization, where does their allegiance lie? And both of them, two men wanting to be president of the United States, clearly said that their first allegiance is to their organization, Skull and Bones. Now, how can there be a president who has an allegiance that supersedes what his responsibilities and obligations are as the leader of the United States? That question was not asked. I know it was on many minds, and it just boggled mine because this is accepted as commonplace. This is another symptom of what is wrong in our society. Now, there are many presidents that you can find on that link that were confirmed members of Freemasonry, and let me say to you guys, freedom of choice, freedom of religion, these are your private lives, and what you do with your private issues, that's your business. What you do as an elected official, that's our business. And guys, we the people of the United States the 99% of us are watching you and holding you accountable, because you don't get a free ride because of your religion, and you don't get a free ride because of your political party, or if you belong to other societies, be they secret or not, or not, or not, or not.